Hello, my name is Steve Miller. Today's automation training lesson is how to use Appium to run automation on a real device, and the device that I'm actually using is a Moto G Android device with the Chrome browser. Prerequisites is that you have Appium and Ruby installed on a Mac. Similar training, and the code's essentially the same except for the caps or the configuration files. You can watch the Android browser using the emulator, and as always, you can get a copy of the code at GitHub Dented Ghosts underneath the Appium training matrix for mobile web. Tools that were used: I use Appium DMG, currently version 1.3.6, the Android debug bridge, terminal, text edit, Chrome on the Mac, and then also Chrome on the Android device. And the Android device that I have been using for the automation was the Moto G, utilizing Android KitKat 4.4. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what we'll end up with as part of our automation, and then we'll start working towards that. So under configurations, I have Android, Appium, KitKat 4.4, and then the device name. I'll go ahead and launch that. And you see it passed in the configurations, version 1.3.6, and we got a 200 OK. Now I'm going to go ahead and run the Ruby simple.rb. And now it's pulling up the Google browser. And now you can see that it's passing in our parameters, typing in the parameters, clicking on the search button, and the results are now displayed. And it's closing out the test. Test succeeded. So we will walk step by step on how to do that, so you can connect your Android device utilizing Appium and Ruby to automate on a real device. Let's begin. Some of the tools that we'll need for this automation is make sure that you have Appium up and running, have a terminal open and available, and then also open up Chrome. In addition to that, since we're working with a real device, have an Android device of your choice and have that available so that we can automate. And the one that I've used for this one is again the Moto G. Along with past videos, going to use the same structure. If you don't already have it, go ahead and create a directory called Dented Ghosts, or you can opt to store it wherever you want. After you do that, then cd Dented Ghosts. Inside of here, what we're going to do is we're going to make a directory called Android Chrome Real Device Simple. So go ahead, mkdir Android Chrome Real Device -simple, and then cd. I'll just tab to autocomplete. And if I do ls, it should be empty. I'm going to do clear to put us back at the top. And now we need to go ahead and set up our gem file. So we'll have our gem file, and then from that we'll create our gem lock file. We are using the Appium _lib. This version we're using is the 7.0. And to do that, we need to make some text changes, which we'll do here in a second. If you haven't already, we'll be using the text edit, and I want to make sure that you have the right preferences. If you've done this from a previous video, then you should be fine. So all you have to do is go ahead and open up text edit. And I'll close that down. And then go up here and go to preferences. And just make sure that you have plain text and make sure that you've removed any of the checks from the smart links. And then go ahead and close it. And then you should be good for any editing that we do. So we'll go back to this folder. What we want to do now is set up our gem files. And to do that, we'll go bundle, init, like bundle initialize, and ls, and we'll see the gem file is there. Now we need to edit this. This is just a temporary or a template file setup. So to edit it, we'll go open -a text edit gem file. And then we have text edit open here. Okay. And what we want it to look like is we want it to look like this. So we can remove the comment. And then we'll add gem, single tick quote, Appium _lib, comma, and then which version that we want. And then single tick quote, tilde, greater than 7.0.0, single tick quote. Then we can save it. And then we can close it. Do clear to push back up to the top. So now we've set up our gem file so it's configured properly that it's going to pull an Appium lib and all of its dependencies. And now that we've configured it, we can go ahead and say bundle install, and it will read that config file, and it will download the gem file and all the dependencies and install them. Now you can see that they've been installed, and we can do an ls, and now we see we have our gem file and our gem lock file. Here in the first part of our coding exercise, we're going to add our required libraries, configure our Appium calls, and then open up the web browser, the Chrome web browser, and then give it a specific URL. To do that, we'll need to create a Ruby file to hold our automation. And in the directory that we created before with the gem file and gem lock, we're going to go ahead and say touch and create an empty Ruby file. And then we're going to use text edit again. So open space dash text edit space simple RB. And then we want to include our required libraries. So we'll say required single tick Ruby gems, and then require single tick Appium _lib, which for us is specifically will point to the 7.0.0. Next, we have our configuration files, or our server capability files that will say, hey, Appium, this is how we want to run our automation. I'm going to have you copy and paste those. Now, these are definitely going to change for your device unless you have a Moto G, but the device name will be different. So the platform name should stay the same as Android. I will deep dive a little bit later on how to get these, but since we're on an Android device, that will be Android. I put question mark for platform version. You'll find it on your specific device. And then you'll also need to find the device name, and the browser name we'll leave as Chrome. Now we need to start the Appium server. Okay. And to get the Appium, we'll say driver.new, and we'll pass in the desired caps, and then we'll have our Appium driver. Now, since we are doing mobile web, we actually need to have access to the Selenium driver to utilize the get feature, which allows us to access the URL. So for mobile web, we need to break this up into, you can do it in one step, but it's a little cleaner this way, showing that we need to take the Appium driver, say start driver, and then capture the Selenium driver from there. Next, what we want to do is promote the Appium method to a class instant method. And the reason why that's important is if we don't do that, we'll have to say Appium underscore driver every time. I'll go down here to a code piece. Every time that we do something where we say, hey, I want to find a specific element, I would actually have to say Appium driver.find element. When I promote it, then I can just go ahead and call find element directly, which allows us to keep our code a lot cleaner. So we're setting it up to make it easier for us going forward. And with the Selenium driver, now what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and say, hey, we want to go ahead and open up the URL Google. So Selenium driver.get, and then quotes, and then the name of the URL that we're going to. And that will be our basic automation. But then how do you get these things for your specific device? And we'll deep dive into that a little bit further. So to get the platform version, it should be the same on most phones. Go to settings and then go to about phone, and then underneath that we will get the Android version. And from everything I've read, you go ahead and you truncate that down to, if you have 4.4.4, you'll truncate that down to 4.4. And here I'll show you an example of that. To get the browser name, we go to settings and then apps, and then we'll just grab the actual name, and since we're using Chrome, that will be our browser name. And here's an example of that. To find the device name on your phone, go to settings, then go to about phone, and then go to status and read your serial number. So in my case, my serial number is the TA 96515UMI, and that's what I will use for my browser name. And here's an example how to access that on your phone. Now that you've captured the platform version, device name, and browser name, I want you to go back to your simple RB and make the changes. So for my platform version, I'll go back and I'll update it to the 4.4, and then the device name for me specifically, and I will update it to the TA 96515UMI. And I will leave the Chrome browser, since this is specifically for Chrome, which we captured right here. So go ahead and make those updates to yours, and then save that for now. Now that we've captured all of our settings, we can go to Appium and add those settings there. So the device name, go ahead and check on the device name and then type in your device name there. For the platform version, find the specific. So mine was 4.4. And again, you may have to actually overwrite if you have like 5.1 and maybe level 22, come in here and overwrite the platform version. You can just type over the top of it. The platform name we'll leave as Android, and our automation is Appium. One interesting thing here is you would think that you'd want to say use Chrome browser, but actually you just leave this off for when we're actually running on the specific device. These are the only changes that we actually need to make. And after you make those changes, click back here, click back one more time just to ensure that they're saved. And that's all we have to do for now for updating our Appium settings. Enabling developer options on your Android device. The first thing I want you to do is take your Android device and connect it to your Mac via USB. Then on your Android device, what we need to do is we need to find the build number. Unfortunately, it can be in different locations on Android devices. Below is kind of a cheat sheet to help you figure it out for your device. For the Moto G, it goes underneath the stock Android. And so I go to Settings and then go down to About Phone. And then you will, underneath About Phone, page all the way down, and there build number is located. What you want to do is just tap on build number 7 times, and it'll start to count down, and then it'll eventually say, hey, you're one step away, and then finally it'll say you are a developer. After that happens, when you go back to the settings page, you will see developer options is now enabled and you have access to it. So now what we'll want to do is go ahead and click on developer options. And then what you'll get is you'll get the USB debugging, or look for USB debugging. Go ahead and check that. That will then prompt you to ask you, do you want to allow USB debugging? Go ahead and click OK. Since we are connected to our Mac, it's also going to prompt us to ask us for this specific machine, do we want to allow debugging? And you can go ahead and click OK. And you may want to also, to prevent this from happening in the future, say always allow this for this specific computer. And I do have an example. It's mostly recorded. It's a little difficult with the USB being disabled, but I'll walk you through and show you an example of actually doing this on your phone. Now let's make sure that our device is connected. An easy way to do that is use the ADB command in terminal. So make sure your device is connected via USB, and then type in ADB devices, and you should see your device name that you also have listed in your config file. If you don't see that, unplug your USB, replug it in. If that still doesn't work, go back into developer options and uncheck enable USB, recheck it, and go through the steps again, and then come back here and type ADB devices. Now we're going to go ahead and launch the Appium server. Again, we'll look at our configs. We'll have Android Appium, your platform version, and your device name. And then go ahead and click launch. You should see your device name be displayed here, and also your platform version, and then your specific version of Appium, and then you should see 200 OK. And then what we want to do now is we want to go ahead and run our Ruby Appium file. Make sure that your device is connected, like we just did previously with the ADB devices, and then go ahead and hit enter and run it. And if you're watching your device now, it's going to go through and walk through and connect, and you should see the Chrome web browser pop up with the Google URL. For mobile web, I prefer using Chrome after switching the user agent to inspect and find elements for mobile automation. And if you don't have it already, there's different user agents. The one that I'm using, you can get by going to More Tools, go to Extensions, and then do a search for user agent switcher. And you can do that by going there and then typing in user agent switcher and then installing it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new window. And then I'm going to pull this down, and I'm going to select an Android Galaxy S3. That should help us for inspecting. It should be similar to the other Android device. And now we have the mobile experience. Sometimes with user agent it gets stuck and you have to clear it out or hit reset or try switch between user agents until you get to make sure that you're in the mobile setup. So now what we're going to do is we're going to utilize the inspector tool that Chrome has built into it. And to do that, go ahead and right mouse click and say inspect element. And I'm going to expand this out a little bit. Okay. And you'll notice now, and sometimes you do have to say inspect twice, it doesn't catch right away. But you'll notice here now that we're looking through this and there's class, but if at all possible, we always want to grab, especially with mobile web, we want to grab the ID. One is when Appium actually searches through the page for elements, IDs actually have a higher performance. The other thing is IDs are supposed to be unique on the page, so we don't actually, because sometimes with other tags you can have multiple versions and you don't know which one you're selecting. So adding an ID allows you to uniquely identify. And then if you ever end up using like XPath, the page structure can change, which makes your automation brittle, because as soon as someone changes one of the structures, your automation can break. So really do try to strive to find something unique. And there are times where IDs don't work, where you have to, like an auto generated ID that won't work. But really do try to use IDs, or at a minimum maybe name and some way to uniquely identify it in the page. And so we did find the ID here, and so we can go ahead and say edit HTML, and I'm going to grab that ID right there, and then I'll go back to our automation and I will just put a comment and search box. And paste that there. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and see, how do we uniquely identify the search button. So again, inspect elements. One of the things you'll notice here is that it just gives us div class, but actually if you page up here, the button tag actually encompasses the whole thing, so we can utilize that too. And again, if we look along here, once again we find an ID. So we can grab that ID. I'll go back here and search button. I'll just paste that there. So now we have our ways to uniquely identify the search box and our ways to uniquely identify the search button. Now that we have the IDs identified, we can go ahead and finish up our automation. So after selenium_driver.get, we're going to say sleep 5. And the reason to do that is to allow enough time for the page to load properly before we actually try to find or access any elements. Sometimes it's not needed, but for the purpose of also for this demonstration, it is helpful, and you can play with that or tweak that to figure out what's an optimal solution for you. So now we have the search box ID. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and find that element. So we'll say element equals find underscore element, and then we're going to access the ID and the specific name or value of that ID. After we have identified that element, we need to put focus on that element so we know where to send the keys, because sometimes the focus could be on a different part of the web page, so it is critical to make sure that you have focus there. And one way to do that is to click on that element. So we can say element.click. Now that we've clicked on that element, we can go ahead and send the keys to that element or our search query. So say element.send underscore keys, and then the value that we want for our search. And so I'm going to say Stephen Miller dented ghost Appium single tick quote. Now that we have typed it in, just for purposes of the demonstration only, I'm going to add a sleep after that. So you can see it typed in, give a second, and then it'll click. You don't necessarily have to have this for any automation purposes, strictly for demonstration purposes. Now with that pause, now we're going to say element equals find element, and now we're going to go ahead and find the search button. So again, ID, the value of that ID, and after we've done that, we're going to say element.click, and to ensure the page has loaded after that, and also to give you an opportunity to look at the search results, I'll put a sleep for 5 seconds. To clean everything up, we'll say driver underscore quits, and if everything has passed to that point, we can print to the terminal test succeeded, single tick. Now go ahead and save that. So a quick overview again before we run it the final time is we required the specific libraries that we had, and then we configured, and this would be based on your device. We're using the Android platform, so platform name is Android, browser name is Chrome, and then specifically for your device, the platform version, and then also the device name. We utilized the Appium driver, grabbed the Appium driver, but we also grabbed the Selenium driver so that we could access the Selenium driver. We did promote Appium so that we could call directly the methods that we have here. And then we found the specific elements that we wanted, and then within Appium we called those elements. We found the element, and here we clicked on the element, sent the keys, And then on the search button, we just clicked on the search button and then saw our results. So to run that, we'll come back to Appium. Again, looking at the configurations that we set up specifically for our device. Go ahead and click Launch. And then in Terminal, say Ruby Simple RB. And then on your device, you will watch as the device boots up and opens up the Chrome browser. Types in the search. And the search results are there. It cleans it up. I hope that was helpful for walking you step by step on how to automate on a real Android device using Appium and Ruby. If you'd like to have access to the code, you can go directly to GitHub Dented Ghosts at Appium Training Matrix mobile web. Thank you for your time, and I welcome your feedback.